For staying with us on Frontline this morning. Now we take our interview segment and we come back to look at other segments of the show this morning. And today we are looking at a very, very important topic. Sometimes there was a conversation ongoing as regards Christian campus fellowship leadership, their commitment, and how they strive in ensuring successes in whatever they do on campus, which some might believe is their primary assignment. And for the leadership of this Christian campus fellowship, it's not just about getting great, it's about serving others and fostering spiritual community in those campuses. But amidst of all of this, how do they strive for success without losing their spiritual focus and their spiritual commitments in various campuses where they find themselves? So hence why we are having this conversation on Frontline this morning. And joining us to have this conversation is the BSF coordinator of the Nigerian Baptist Convention. I have with me Reverend Adeshola Adeyemi, the studio with me. Good morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. So let me first start by asking you that how do you juggle your role as the BSF coordinator and every other responsibilities?
Well, good morning, viewers. Let me start by saying that it calls for being sure of what you are set out to do. There are a lot of responsibilities that we always call for your attention, and nothing must you do as a leader that must jeopardize your home. So, there is that struggle of balancing your home, balancing your responsibilities, reaching out to so many other people, doing things as expected of you. Ultimately, I think there is the place of wisdom. There is the place of asking God for the wisdom on how to strike that balance. Then there is also the place of you being determined that, okay, come what may, I must not fail as a family man. I must not fail in ministry. I must not fail in leadership. I must not fail in whatsoever. So one of the things that personally that I do is, one, I know I set out a to do, what I want to do per time. Now, and I want to stick to it as much as possible. Although there are times that unforeseen circumstances might, crop in and want to alter what you have even scheduled to do, so that you will give priority to each thing you want to do per time, so that none of it will suffer. But of course, it can be quite challenging at times, especially with various unforeseen circumstances. Yesterday, I was planning to do something and I received a call that somebody died. In fact, that took me off balance for about 2 or 3 hours. I was struggling to ensure that, okay, I keep track with what I was doing, so that I will, at the end of the day, fulfill my task for the day, so that by the time I get home, I will not be thinking about office work, so that that balance will be there. But we have those disruptions here and there from time to time. But of course, with God's wisdom, with His insight, we can always strike that balance as much as possible.
Okay, for people that are just joining us, I'm still having this conversation with the BSF coordinator. And in case you don't know what BSF stands for, that is Baptist Student Fellowship of the Nigerian Baptist Convention. And I have the coordinator with me here in the studio. And we are talking about navigating academic and fellowship leadership. Sometimes we have these people saddled with the responsibility of serving others in those campuses, and they still have to battle with their academics, ensuring that they get good grades and all of that. How challenging do you think this might be for them, and what are the ways you think they can overcome it?
Yeah, you see, for us as a Baptist Student Fellowship, one of our cardinal objectives, one of our cardinal objectives is academic excellence. We have the cardinal objective of salvation, discipleship, churchmanship, academic excellence.
Okay.
Now, we place priority on academic excellence as much as possible. So, and our leadership trainings focus also on academic excellence at various times, because we know that there is the danger of tilting to the extreme when you are in leadership. I remember that as a university student, there were several times that foolishly, I will say, 2, 3, 4, 5 days at times, I may not even remember to open my books, because there are so many piled up responsibilities that calls for attention. And I would want to focus on that. I said foolishly because that was actually on the wrong side, tilting towards one side at the expense of others. It took time before I came back to my senses and said, no, if you continue this way, you will graduate as a university student as a failure, because I may do well spiritually, but I'm not doing well academically. And the main essence of being in school, first and foremost, is because of your studies, because of your academics. So we emphasize that for them. Now, one of the things that, as much as we want them to have a balanced life, academically balanced, spiritually balanced, we emphasize the import of you knowing yourself. Everybody has a strength. Everybody has a weakness. There are some people that they can spend all their days sitting down to read and they still assimilate. There are some, I used to have a friend that all through our days back then, I'm not sure I remembered seeing him any time sitting down to read more than maximum of maybe 30 or 40 minutes at a stretch. He knows that the moment he's sitting down for 1 hour, he will start thinking about some other things. So he wants to give that 30 minutes maximally. Nothing, no distraction, nothing comes in around that time. And after that 30 minutes, he can stand up, go and play for the next 1 hour, comes back again, sits down for 30 minutes. That's an understanding of himself. There are people that they can, sit down, burn the night candle, read all through the night, and they will still be up and doing in the morning. They will still be active. There are some, they can sleep all through the night, but once they wake up as early as 3, 4, 5 a.m., they can take 2 hours to study. So we encourage them to strike that balance by number one, what is your strength? The moment you know your strength, the moment you know what your mental capacity can accommodate, especially when it comes to you sitting down to study, then you will be able to strike that balance. Then when it is time also to focus on fellowship activities, leadership activities particularly, you would also be willing and ready to face that.
Okay, because I remember back then in school when they want to choose this executive, I don't always know what the criteria they look forward to, because sometimes you just pick somebody and the person will be struggling to meet up with academic activities, and here he or she doesn't want the fellowship to also be lagging behind. So what will be the criteria, or what do you think should be the criteria in selecting executives for fellowship, considering the strengths you mentioned?
All right. We have what we call nominating committee form. Some places they call it choice committee form. Now, on that form, one of the information that is put on it is we want to know what is your current CGPA. Yes. Now, as a zonal coordinator back then in years past, I remembered that there was a particular campus that I coordinated. They came with a list of their intending executives with their forms, the forms that they filled, and I was also involved in interaction. And when I was checking through, I saw that there was a particular young lady that had maybe around 2.2 or 2.34 CGPA. Okay. And I was like, did you notice? They say yes, but it's the best for that. I say no, that is foolishness. You want to kill this girl. Now, if this is a lady that is already in 300 level and she has this kind of CGPA, and you still want to put a responsibility of leadership. In fact, unfortunately, they were planning to make her an executive holding about 2 or 3 posts. I was like, no, let her go and focus on her studies. Whatsoever she wants to offer as a member of the fellowship, as a member of the unit or subgroup, let her offer it. Now, we encourage that those who will come into leadership must be good examples in terms of academic excellence. In fact, I know some campuses that once your CGPA is below 2.1, except if they don't have any option, they won't consider anybody that is below 2.1 for their leadership. Okay. I have seen that on some campuses. Once you are below a 2.1, no. They will tell you that, sorry, you need to go and focus and improve on your CGPA. Irrespective of how well how vast you are in terms of spirituality, in terms of leadership, experience, and exposure, the moment they discover that your academics is suffering, They will push you back and say, no, please, we want you to be supporting from the background. Focus more on your studies. So criteria that are always considered, of course, spirituality is there. We want to be sure that this is a spiritually sound person, because you cannot be leading the people of God and the people that you are leading are better off than you spiritually on all sides. So we want to ensure that, okay, spiritually you have what it takes to be a leader. Then academically, as a student, academically, you must not be a struggling student. We don't want to have leaders who will say that, well, I failed in school because I was involved in fellowship activities. Of course, there are so many underlying factors for some of those failures at times, but primarily, we don't want it attached or connected to the fact that this person is leading. That is why he or she failed. So we want to ensure that, okay, spiritually they are sound, academically they are sound. Then in terms of relationship, we also want to have leaders that know what it means to be to relate well with others. To relate well with others. So those are some of the criteria that, you know, I can remember quickly. Now.
Okay. Now I want us to quickly divert a bit to quickly establish something, and that is, what exactly is campus fellowship are meant to do on campuses? So I think we need to establish that first before we now proceed on this conversation.
All right. The Baptist Student Fellowship, and by extension other fellowships, but of course I will speak more about the Baptist Student Fellowship, is actually supposed to provide the opportunity for Baptist students and non-Baptist students that the Lord is bringing to us, you know, to have the opportunity of fellowshipping together, to worship God together, to improve together in their growth spiritually, in their growth relationally, in their growth in every ramification of life, and to also position them, you know, as global ambassadors. We want to train them to be, you know, people of global impact that can have what it takes to be on any platform, any world stage platform. But of course, primarily, we want to ensure that the fellowship is actually supposed to give them the platform for growth, all-round growth, spiritually, you know, in terms of, you know, they have exposure one way or the other. They relate with one another. They majorly to worship God. And that is why, you know, when you get to a majority of our fellowships, you discover that they have different platforms. We have seen people that they discovered the grace of God upon their lives right from campus. And that is what they built on in years to come. And at the moment, they are doing exploits in various places. So the fellowship is actually supposed to give them the opportunity of fellowshipping together, worshiping God, and as they are doing that, they are also growing. They are learning. They are learning how to be leaders, you know, leaders for the future, leaders now, because, you know, you see them involved in different activities, and you see the extent of creativity that they put into some of the things that they are doing. So when they come out, you can be sure that that will serve as the bedrock for what they want to do in the future. You know, I tell people that hardly would you see anyone who had the opportunity of providing, of being a member, of being a part of any of our Baptist Student Fellowships on campus in this age, and the person becomes useless outside. That means there is something technically wrong with that person, because the fellowship will give you almost every platform that you need to express yourself, to ensure that you are checking yourself. Okay, am I growing in this aspect? In which aspect do I need to improve more? In which aspect do I need to learn more? How can I relate with this brother or this sister to learn more so that I can be a better person? And how can I also relate to, you know, with God, as I am also a part of this fellowship? So we have that opportunity available for them in the various fellowships, and there must be a balance.
Okay. As much as I would like you to also touch down on some other fellowships, I don't want us to focus this discussion on just the Baptist fellowship. Now, how do you think fellowships can structure their weekly activities to be flexible, so that it will not make the students to be so engaged in spiritual activities, and to ensure that they still strike a balance between the two? You know, sometimes when you get to this fellowship, some of them do have programs from Monday to Friday. and you come to ask yourself, is this some kind of church we are doing here? This is a campus. Students are expected to learn while they are still also looking forward to their spiritual growth. So how do you think, or techniques to make sure that programs, weekly activities could be flexible enough?
Okay. Really the majority of our campuses or our campus-based fellowships, some of them have Bible study, they have prayer meeting on different days of the week, then they come again on Sunday. Now, there are also various units. On some campuses, they call it units, some call it subgroups. And each of those units or subgroups, they come together also maybe once in a week. For those who are in choir, they want to come together for rehearsals. Those who are in drama, they want to come together for rehearsals. Those who are in prayer, they want to come together for this unit prayer meeting. Now, you now discover that for some, there are some that feels that wherever I find myself, I can fit into every unit. So you see them in 1, 2, 3, 4 units. Now, if choir meets on Saturday, prayer unit meets on Monday, Bible study meets on Wednesday, the fellowship meets on Tuesday. So you now discover that every day
now
you see them in fellowship. I keep asking them questions. The question is, what time do you now have to sit down after all what you have been taught in school to study? In fact, I think about 4 years ago, a particular parent called me. I was still a zonal coordinator then. A particular parent called me and she said, please, can you help me tell your daughter? That was what she said. Can you help me tell your daughter to stop going to fellowship every day? And I was like, no, ma, their fellowship, they don't meet every day. They say, no. Last week, every day when I called her, she told me she was in fellowship. And that has been, I now called her, I said, what is wrong with you? She said, well, I go to prayer, I'm in prayer unit. I said, is something wrong with you? Why must you be in about 4 different units? And at the same time, you go on other fellowship days. You have already, taking your time. And unfortunately, their choir rehearsal would run from, I think it will run for about 3 hours. They will start from around 5 till around 8:39. I had to tell them, this must stop. You cannot continue like this. When do you want your members to study? Now, we encourage them as much as possible. Number 1, don't join more than 1 unit. If you join just 1 unit, we want you to be useful in the fellowship. Don't join more than 1 unit. Now, if you join 1 unit, automatically you know that you will only be in fellowship aside other fellowship meeting days once. Now, if it is possible, there is nothing stopping some fellowships from collapsing their weekly activities. Instead of coming Tuesday, use 2 hours, come on Friday, use 2 hours. Can't you bring it together? Spend 1 hour for prayer meeting, spend 1 hour for Bible study on a single day. Then you come on Sunday. I think that will be fine.
That's fair enough.
But the zeal of young people can be very, 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 very interesting. That can be so difficult for them at times to do, especially when you now consider that there are so many other places around them where they are being influenced. They want to come together, they want to explore, they want to pray together, different from the fellowship time. Now, what we encourage majorly is this. If it is practically impossible to have maybe 1 day, of course, there are still fellowships that they don't have much activities. They only come maybe once or twice in the week, Sunday and 1 other day. I see no fellowships like that. Sunday and 1 other day. Now, if you are meeting for any other thing, it is maybe unit meetings, which doesn't go beyond 1 hour, most times 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and everybody is out of the place. But of course, there are some that you also see them almost every day. So as much as possible, we encourage them to, to narrow it down, reduce your time. Reduce your time. Don't waste people's time. If you want to spend 1 hour, spend the 1 hour and be out. Don't come together and, 1 hour, 3 hours, you are still doing something. And when you check, you discover that these are things you can do in 1 hour. These are things you can even do at times in 45 minutes and you are out of it. So we encourage them to do that. Where it is possible for them to merge their programs, I know they are doing that. Where it is not possible, we keep encouraging them to slash down their time so that there won't be unnecessary waste of time. And that cuts across almost every fellowship. Almost every fellowship. You know, on our campuses now, we have a duplicity or multiplication of fellowships in large numbers.
Yeah.
I know a campus in the southwest here that has over 100 fellowships
inside one campus.
Inside one campus.
Wow.
Over 100. In fact, most campuses now, particularly universities, polytechnics may not have much because they don't also have much numbers in their school in some places compared to universities. So you see them in their large numbers, and you get to some of these fellowships, you see them also in their large numbers, hundreds, 150, 200. In fact, we have some Baptist student fellowships that have population of 400, 450.
Wow.
300 in some places, and we have some that are just 10. That's the funny side of it. So they are also under the influence. They are being influenced by their relationship with other fellowships. So you see them coming almost every time to fellowship. So we encourage all of them that don't lose sight of your primary objective, your primary assignment of being a student. I tell people that you are a member of Baptist Student Fellowship because you are a student. Because you gained admission. Because you gained admission. Exactly. You are a member of Redeemed Campus Fellowship because, in fact, the word campus there shows you are you are a student on a campus. You are a member of whatsoever fellowship because you are a student. Don't lose sight of that as much as possible.
So what role do you think mentorship and accountability play in ensuring that we have a good leadership in our campuses who have not lost sight of their academic pursuit? And how do you think churches around them can also help out?
Yeah, mentorship is crucial, it's vital. Of course, I will still talk about the BSF too. We have what we call the volunteer campus ministers, and those are volunteer staff of the convention of the student ministries domiciled on each campus, and one of their expectations is to ensure that they spend time with the students, minimum of 2 hours in a week. Okay. Now, that time, what do we expect them to do? We expect them to provide mentorship. We expect them to provide guidance. We expect them to relate with them. We expect them to, spend time with them as regards their studies, check what is going on with them, guide them. This is how to be a leader and maintain a balance academically. This is how to be a leader and maintain a balance with the opposite sex. This is how to be a leader and you are not even, affecting yourself. Some of them, they don't hit very well. The moment they are in leadership, from morning till night, ulcer, and so many other things. So, but when they have the guidance of someone, an elderly one around them, who also knows what is expected of them and how to go about it with all objectivity, then they can always give them that guidance. Then churches around, we have campuses where there are churches around, and such churches we definitely have maybe a designated member, a designated deacon that will be checking up on them. Though it's not every church that does that. Of course. And we encourage our churches to be up and doing in that regard. We shouldn't just leave them with as sheep without a shepherd. There are places where we don't have volunteer campus ministers. We expect that churches around such campuses should be up and doing in that regard so that they can also provide a model for this fellowship. So mentorship is crucial, of course, as you have said. We need to ensure that that is in place, and we do our bit in ensuring that we provide them with that as much as possible.
So are there some testimony or some experience you'd like to share?
Of course. Okay. It gladdens my heart each time I see any of our students graduating with first class. I remember so well.
They were executives.
Yes. Okay. In fact, interestingly, in the last couple of years, I have had, there is a particular campus that it appears as if almost all their presidents have been finishing with a first class.
Wow.
And the interesting thing is, majority of them would not become executives in their maybe 400 level, 300 level. Some of them have been executives as soon as they were coming out of their first year. After their first year, they are going into their second year, they become executives. So you see some of them consistently, being an executive for 2-3 sessions, and they are able to maintain their academic excellence. In fact, I remember there was a particular testimony of one of our students who currently is taking his PhD studies on scholarship outside the country. He went, for his master's also on scholarship. Now, this guy shared with me that, Daddy, do you know that as at the time I came into leadership, he was actually on a very weak 2-2. Now, when he was given the option to serve, he initially wanted to decline because he felt like I needed to build my CGPA and I don't want any distraction. But he said he just felt that the failures I have experienced were not because I was a leader. It was because I did not get something right myself. So he took up that challenge, took the responsibility, and focused more on his studies. I don't know the miracle that happened. Do you know that from that time till when he graduated, he was having 5 points every semester? It was so consistent. He had to come and say, Daddy, look at my result. I don't know how this happened. And I said, well, of course, this is not because you were a leader. And this is also because you are a leader. Now, you discovered that something was wrong with you. You were not doing well when you were not a leader. So that affirms to me that failure is not because you take up leadership responsibility. If you can sit down, discover what is wrong with you, you can definitely have a headway. So there are so many testimonies of people, who, even though they were in leadership, you see God coming miraculously for them despite the very hard challenges that they face. They are able to still maintain their academic excellence. And some did not have the excellence as expected when they came into leadership. But they came into leadership and they were able to sit down and say, no, now I'm a leader. I mustn't be a failure. I won't have a testimony before these people. Yeah. And you see a turnaround in them. So there are multiple testimonies like that. Okay, so
let me ask you that. For instance, maybe people, before they leave their various houses to those campuses, they are so zealous for God, totally sold out to Christ. But yeah, they are just like the example you cited about a parent asking you to call our daughter so that she can get serious with her study. So are there some techniques that you think students, or let's say incoming students, can also employ or explore to ensure that they strike a balance between the two while they are just starting to begin the journey?
Yes. Starting the journey, especially as a tertiary institution student, calls for you setting out your goal right from the beginning. I had a lecturer back in the university that when we were doing orientation, he said, and I can't forget that analogy. When he came to our orientation, he came with an A4 paper. And he said, everybody look at this. This was given to every student at the gate as we were coming into the campus. And we were like, nobody gave us this now. He said, no, there is a bin at the gates that was giving everybody this unseen. And this is your first class. And as you are given, he's also giving you a scissors. That, well, I'm giving you this, determine what you want to graduate with. And he said some from their first semester, they will cut three quarters of it, they will cut it away. Wow. Some we only cut half. Some are wise, they will be chipping it off little by little, little by little. And that stuck to my mind, that it is possible that as I'm coming into a school for the first time as a student, I set the goal that, okay, I want to finish from this school with a first class, irrespective of how difficult my department is. And in order to achieve that, what do I need to do? Number one, I need to take my time to study as and when due. I need to understand that I cannot flock with just anybody. Because one of the things that affects a lot of people on campuses is the fact that they found themselves in a wrong association right from when they came. Now, if you are in an association that, when I say association, I don't mean being a part of this association, that association, but I'm talking about the kind of companion that they keep. Now, if you find yourself in the midst of people that are not adding any value to you academically, it will be difficult for you to do well. So we encourage them, new intakes, that as they come, fix yourself in an association of people, a companion, have a companion of people that, you know, they can always help you. We encourage them to set goals, as I've said. We encourage them to ensure that they also, each one of them also wants to, you know, position himself in such a way that his strength will be improved upon. He will keep improving on his strength. His areas of weaknesses also, he will keep improving on it, so that there will be that balance. Then when you need help, seek for help. And when you are seeking for help, seek from the right source. Many of our fellowships also organize what we call tutorials. We encourage freshers, as soon as you come, join a tutorial group where you can learn, where you can, you know, come to discuss issues that you were taught in class. People who have been through that particular course, they have the experience that they do not have, so they can always give them that help and leverage.
I remember very well that when this conversation first ensued, somebody was saying that even in campuses, during exam, you will see some of these fellowships still having services, conducting services that there shouldn't be anything like that during exam. So do you also subscribe to that?
Well, I may not say that they shouldn't meet at all during exam. It depends on what is obtainable on their campuses. You know, there are campuses that by 2-3, they are done with exam. And the way they stagger their exams, I know campuses that, you know, 1 week, 100 level students alone will take their exam 1 week, or maybe the first 2 weeks. Then the next 2 weeks, another level takes their exam. The next 2 weeks, another level takes their exam. And that will be all. So if we have that, for me, I feel there is nothing, there are fellowships that once they start exam, they come together for what they call exam prayer. They will shut down every other activity. In fact, their exam prayer, they don't meet at their fellowship venue. They meet within the school. They have a different fellowship venue, but they meet within the school in the evening. 30 minutes, all members that are around come together in the evening. Everybody would have finished their exam maybe 2-3. So around 5:30, they come together. They just spend about 30 minutes to 1 hour to pray, commit what they have done into the hands of God, and commit what they will do into the hands of God. For me, that is fine. That is fine. Now, what I know also is that most of our fellowships, once the exam has started, some of them shut down their fellowship outrightly. Some, you know, reduce their time from 1 hour, from 2 hours to 1 hour, from 2 days to 1 day, except Sunday. And they come together. And I think that is still fine. Because writing exam doesn't mean we must outrightly shut ourselves away from God.
And our spiritual life should also be shut.
Also be shut out of God.
All right, I'll be having this conversation with Reverend Adeshola Adeyemi, the Baptist Student Fellowship Coordinator of the Nigerian Baptist Convention, and we are looking at navigating academic and leadership responsibilities in our campuses. I want to say a very big thank you to you, sir.
Thank you for having me. Thank you
this
so
wonderful
much.
time on the show this morning. Before I let you go, just a word of advice for all the students watching us who have passion for Christ and who still want to succeed academically.
All right. I will just say to you that, number one, remember that you were created for a purpose. There is a reason why God created you, and there is a reason why God has given you the opportunities that you have. Don't forget God. Come what may. Don't forget God. And as you are growing in God, don't also become useless academically. Don't become useless, in terms of relationship with others. You must ensure that you strike that balance, grow in God, grow in your studies, grow in your career, grow in your relationship with people, and the sky will only be your starting point.
Yeah, the sky will be your starting point if you do the needful by ensuring that one do not suffer for the other. Make sure that you strike a balance in everything that you do as student. That's what we take on our interview segment this morning. We'll take a break now, and after that, Frontline continues. Do stay with us.